Hi friends, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to share some updates on how I've been setting up my home and garden project tracker for 2024 in my Hobonichi Weeks. This is kind of like a part 2 to the last home and garden video that I recorded last week, because after I filmed that video, I found myself getting stuck and unmotivated to continue chipping away at some of those details that I hadn't fully figured out in the last video. And since we are still only in December and 2024 hasn't even started yet, I felt like it was important to get to the bottom of what I was struggling with, where I was getting stuck, and try to do something about it. Otherwise, I knew that I wasn't going to stick with this book, and the whole purpose of using this book for 2024 is to get a handle on home chores and just taking care of our house in a sustainable way so that it can start to become a little more habitual, and hopefully in years to come, this won't be so much of a struggle for me. After spending quite a bit of time thinking this through and feeling like I was spinning my wheels a little bit, I got to a place where I'm feeling more hopeful for 2024. So I'm going to take you through that, and hopefully this will be helpful for you if you are like me at all and you struggle to get motivated to do things that typically aren't fun. So there are some things that I don't struggle with motivation, especially when it comes to stationery and doing things that I enjoy doing, like all of my various hobbies. But when it comes to keeping our home in good order, for example, meal planning, which was previously something that I did not enjoy doing at all and kind of refused to do for so many years, I'm really hoping that I can take some of the lessons that I learned from building a habit of meal planning regularly and seeing if I can replicate that success when it comes to taking care of our home. And maybe this isn't something that everyone struggles with, but it's certainly something that I have struggled with for as long as I can remember. And I guess I've never made it a goal to do something about it until now. Before we get into it, I first wanted to thank you for joining me today. I've really enjoyed engaging with some of you in my comments, and it is so great to have someone to talk to about all of my journaling and planning thoughts, because I certainly have a lot of them. So I really hope that this can be like a conversation, and I hope by exposing my difficulties and some of my chaotic thoughts, I hope we can learn from each other and inspire each other to tackle difficult things in 2024. Caring for my home is something that is on my mind on a daily basis. I might as well try to improve my physical environment, which can be tied to your overall mental well-being. I'll try not to ramble too much. I invite you to grab a tea or a coffee or your favorite beverage of choice, whatever you need to get cozy. Today, I have a tea, which I've already made a bit of a dent in. All right, so to pick up where we left off from the last video, I had said that the purpose of this book was to have a clean home and a well-maintained garden. And I also wanted this book to keep me accountable using a method, in this case, using one subject book for the entire year in order to focus on this task at hand. So that was kind of the purpose of this book. Now, I knew that I wanted my monthlies to have a project focus, to mainly be for planning and to record important events that were related to the home. So in my example, I think I had said if a plumber comes over, I would note it down in here, and then I would maybe have more details in the weekly. The purpose for the monthly was I would use it to plan. I would designate a project focus so that I didn't overcommit myself, and I would record main events that were related to the home. And then for the weeklies, I had decided that I wanted this to mainly be a place to track what was going on and to capture detail as necessary. So if a plumber came over, I would note that down in the month, and then in that particular week, I would use this page to note down details of the event. So that was the weekly, and then I felt that in some form I was going to do some kind of tracking. And then the notes pages were mainly going to be project logs for things that I wanted to do around the house and wanted to note down so I wouldn't forget them. And then when I was planning to do a project for an upcoming month, I would be able to reference this list and be able to work my way through it and make sure that we were slowly getting things done. And then the other thing I wanted to use the notes for was planning projects, especially ones that take a little bit more planning if they were going to span multiple days. And then I also wanted to use the notes pages for recurring tasks so that I could start to get a handle on things that we needed to do around the house on a regular basis. So above and beyond daily tasks like cleaning the dishes or doing the laundry, things that were not quite habitual and still felt like they needed to be scheduled in and tracked. So that's as far as I got in the last video, and I still think that that is how I want to use this planner. But once I sat down to start using the book in that way, I realized that I was getting stuck. Right from the beginning of using this book, I wanted to create a realistic cleaning and chores routine that I could stick to. And even though I knew that having it all figured out by January was kind of unrealistic, I think I still thought that I could come up with an initial version and then build off of that. But the problem was whenever I sat down to think about what that initial version would be, I started to get really overwhelmed, and I realized that I really don't know where to start, and I don't really know what to do. The whole reason why I have a book like this is because I want to learn what to do, and I want it to be customized and unique for our home and our needs and our schedule. And the problem is we have been doing everything very reactively, and we kind of have a loose, deep clean schedule, and we kind of have, certain tasks that are considered like high priority that we will do on a regular basis, like cleaning our bathroom or, keeping our kitchen clean. But there were a lot of smaller things that I just felt like I didn't have a lot of clarity or visibility on, and I was really hoping that I'd be able to do that with this book. So here we are. I know that I really want to create this very realistic, customized chores and cleaning routine that I can stick to, but I have no idea where to start, and I don't even really know what to do, even though I know that I struggle in this area, and I have tried my best to come up with ways to set myself up for success before the year even starts. My perfectionism tendencies were still getting in the way, in that I was thinking that I needed to have a whole list set up and categorized in a sensible way before we even started in January. And I think a part of me knew that was kind of a big task, but I just thought I could do it anyway. I have learned to recognize the signs that my perfectionism is starting to interfere with my ability to get things done. And for me, it's when I start procrastinating and when I start avoiding. So even though I have this gorgeous notebook, I was really procrastinating and coming up with excuses as to getting started in using this book. Even though it's technically for 2024, it does have several weeks in December that I could have been using this book for. After I recognized that my perfectionism was kicking in because I didn't really know where to start and I didn't really know what to do, I started to ask myself, when have I experienced issues with starting what feels like a really daunting task? And what were some ways that I was able to break it down and slowly work through it? And it reminds me of a time when I was experiencing a very severe breakout with my skin. If I haven't already mentioned it before, I do have eczema. And when I was really struggling with this breakout, I went to see a doctor, and instead of just prescribing me a cream to put on my skin, we decided to take a holistic approach towards trying to uncover what was going on. What I remembered about that time is, in the beginning, we were kind of starting from scratch. Like, we had some assumptions and we had some hunches on certain foods that we might want to eliminate. To get a starting point, we wanted to track everything. And the more data you have, the more informed the decision you can make later. So I started to look at this book as an opportunity to acknowledge that where I am right now is I don't have a lot of knowledge, and that it is in my best interest to start from scratch. The other thing that I needed to keep in mind with this is, when it comes to something like my skin, it's mainly just me tracking myself. But when it comes to something like home chores, this is something that I share with Mike. Even though I want to track my own progress and I want to be able to have this book to reference throughout the year and have it be a guide for future years, I also had to keep in mind that this process has to be done collaboratively in order for us to both be on board and tackle this together. I tried 2 different approaches. I'm going to share both of those with you. One is more of like a digital approach, using a lot of the same principles that I used in some of my other videos when it comes to brainstorming and generating like a list of things. And then the other is a process for how I'm going to use this book. So I will start by sharing my screen again, because I did do part of this brainstorm on an online bulletin board. This can be done with sticky notes like I did in the past. The only reason why I did this on this virtual bulletin board is because this is how Mike prefers to collaborate and receive information. And so I wanted to find an approach that would work for the 2 of us. And I was thinking this is something that we could add to and build upon as the year goes on. And it would be a lot easier than saving sticky notes and worrying about losing them. So I'm going to do a little screen recording, and this is the online bulletin board that I use. This is almost like a rough draft, just based on what I think. And then throughout the year, we're going to test these assumptions that I have put together for how I think we're going to clean our home. Here at the top, the green represents the entryway. So we've got the actual entrance to our home, and then we have some stairs that lead up into our main level. So those are 2 potential areas that may need some maintenance. Then on our main level, we have our kitchen, our powder room, and our living and dining room, which are kind of the same room. It's sort of like one big room, but we have designated spaces with different pieces of furniture. And then we have our second level, which has our bedroom, a balcony. There's a second bedroom, which we use as our office. There's the main stairwell, there's a hallway, and then there's a bathroom. And then we have a top level, which has a open space that I'm calling the loft. And then we have our patio. So this is how our home is broken up. I'm not sure whether it's going to make sense for us in the long term to split our cleaning duties by room. So does it make sense to say, okay, we're going to clean the kitchen, we're going to clean the living room, or if it's going to make sense down the line to split things up based on specific task. So are we going to have a day where it makes more sense when we're cleaning the bathroom and we got all our stuff out, we just clean both toilets? Or if I'm cleaning the sink, I'll just clean both sinks because it just makes sense to do those together. Then I use these sticky notes. So these are kind of like the sticky notes that I used in my health and wellness video that I did a while back. You can change the colors as needed, and left it as, yellow for any kind of task. And it looks messy for sure because this is a first draft, but I just kind of brainstormed what came to the top of my mind in terms of things that you would need to do. So I know for the entryway, we will need to mop the floors. And then I have the same thing for a common task like vacuuming. I tried to put a sticky note for every space that we would need to vacuum. So this is where my mind was at and what made me realize that I don't actually know all the things that we need to do because I kind of know loosely, like you mop the floors, you clean the bathroom, you do some vacuuming, you change the towels. But what about all those little things that come up that we do and just don't occur to me? So I sectioned these off as like common tasks because these are things that need to happen across the different rooms. And then I had what I was calling unique tasks. These are all things that are quite unique to specific rooms. So while I might vacuum across different rooms, in the dining area, I'm only going to wash the placemats because that's the only space that will have placemats. Cleaning the fridge is something that is unique to the kitchen. I also have a little section here just to remind myself that these are things that we do on a regular basis, and I am not going to note down in our common and unique chores or tasks because these just kind of are so habitual that I'd be checking them off every day, and I don't even really need to create a routine around it because they just happen. And then over here, I have what I'm just calling a key, where I'm designating a number value to the frequency that we think we want to do these tasks. And so essentially we've got like a daily, something we do weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. And the cool thing about Miro is that you can add a tag to all of your little sticky notes. And so here I have mopping floors in the entryway stairs. I have it red, which you can see is bi-weekly. However, on our main level, we're in a no shoes home and we vacuum on a very regular basis. And so in terms of mopping these areas, we actually have it set to monthly. I assigned a frequency to each of these tasks. And the idea is that as the year goes on, sorry, I keep zooming in and out. As the year goes on, we'll be adding tasks as needed and then deciding on the frequency. So my hope is that this is a place that Mike and I can both add to and refer back to when we are planning out, like just to get on a schedule. And the last thing I'll say before I close this up is I am very open to maybe not categorizing it in this way. It's just made sense to us in terms of doing it by room and then kind of by task, but I'm excited to see how this looks as the year goes on because maybe there is going to be another way that makes a lot more sense. So that is the online visual bulletin board that I've been using as a starting point to organize what's been in my head down onto this board, and it is something that Mike and I will be continuing to refer back to as the year goes on. Moving back to where the notebook fits in, I've decided to start using the weeklies as a place to just track everything that I am doing related to our home in my weeklies. And the idea is that I'm going to do this for a few months at least. I'm thinking till the end of March or Q1, so that I can just start to build that awareness. And the benefit is that once it is written down, I will have a record of when it happens. So I started trying this out last week, and you can see that I started writing down on the 7th of December, we installed shelves in the understairs closet. So that's not really a chore that I would consider to be like recurring. It's more like something that we did for the house when it happened, and I would consider that as part of like a standalone project. Last video, I differentiated between recurring tasks, which are chores that need to happen on a somewhat regular basis, like vacuuming, whereas a standalone project is something that we are doing for the home, but once that project is done, we don't really need to do those things again. So now I know that December 8th, we vacuum the office. And if I want to vacuum the office at least on a monthly basis, like a deep vacuum where we're getting into every single corner, then I know that by January 8th, I want to make a note that I should be vacuuming the office. I also have vacuumed stair baseboards. So I had mentioned before just vacuuming the stairs, but that is pretty like broad thing to say because you're vacuuming the tops of the stairs, and there's also the like baseboards along the sides that I don't always think of doing every time. And then there's also stair risers, I think they're called. So there's all these different parts of stairs that we need to clean and use different products for. Now I know that we vacuum the stair baseboards and we vacuumed the vent in our hallway. That's another thing that never occurs to me to do on a regular basis, but I would really like to get into a routine of doing. And this is going to build awareness of all the little things that we are doing around the home in terms of what they are and when they're happening. And then the idea is that I will start to build a log in my notes section. I'm going to start tracking all those little tasks in the back here. And that way, at the end of Q1, I'll return back to that Miro board that I showed you earlier, and we'll start to fill in the gaps. We'll start to take a look at all these little tasks that we are doing that didn't occur to me when I was putting together that Miro board, and determine how often it should happen. And eventually the idea is that we do this long enough and we'll get a much more comprehensive list of everything that we're doing and more awareness of what we need to do and when we need to do it. I'm keeping the notes pages very flexible. Here I just talked about how I want 2024 to be very much like a build an awareness and learn about what we need to do for our home. In 2025, we'll have a whole year behind us of building an awareness and trying to create some habits. So 2025 will be like more of a maintenance year where we are taking what we learned from 2024 and carrying it over and then just making changes as needed. So yeah, a couple of reminders I said to myself were this year is about building awareness and a plan for moving forward. Putting all this effort in now is going to save me time in the future by creating a system that is realistic and completely customized for us and our needs. And that this final list is going to take time to be built. And also, there is never really going to be a final list, just a more informed list than I had before. So that's how I'm going to be approaching the weeklies for the first few months of 2024. And I'm really excited to try this because, like I was saying earlier with when I was tracking my diet, when I was trying to figure out what was going on with my skin, it was too hard to sit there and say, well, I think I eat these things on these days, and I would say I eat dairy, so many days in a month, or I have a feeling, that I eat gluten every other day. It was so much easier to just track down everything I was doing for a period of time and then having actual data to show my doctor. And so this is kind of how I'm approaching this, is just tracking everything without thinking, not making it too hard, just writing it down, and then moving it every so often, just moving it over here and then tracking it here as well, so that I can start to use this page as a way to help me determine when it needs to be done again. So I actually have to run to a meeting. So I am going to stop this for now, and I'm going to come back and continue filming this video, and we're going to set up this chores log. So I'll be back. It's been a few hours since I stopped filming the last part of my video. I'm now going to set up my log page, and I think for now I've set aside 2 pages for each quarter. So I've got one for Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. So this actually needs to live one more page over. And to the end of Q1, I'll just see if this even makes sense and if it's working. And then if it is, I'll just redo it for Q2. Otherwise, I'll have an opportunity to try something different. So I'm going to set that up now. And I'm going to use these little alphabet stamps that I really like. So I'll call it task description. And then here, I'm going to put recurring, yes or no, effort level, and so I've got a W for weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. And then I've got the weeks. So, well, we've got 13 weeks for Q1 of 2024, and then just an extra space for notes. Once I give this time to properly dry, I'll erase the pencil marks. But just to reiterate, I'm going to do task description here. If we go back to December, and let's say I wanted to log this in here, I'd probably put vacuum office, and then I would put yes for recurring, because it's something that I'm going to be doing repeatedly throughout the year. Effort level, I'm going to say, I just put 1, 3, and 5 because I wanted to assign how much like effort it is so I can start to understand for next time. And a 1 is something that I can do it in one session and it's relatively quickly. And then a 5 is something that is going to take multiple days and probably a lot of planning. For vacuum office, I would put yes. For recurring, I'd put a 1 for effort level. Depending on what I decided, let's say I decided that it was something I wanted to do bi-weekly, then I would put bi-weekly in here. And then if I did it in the first week of January, I would just put a little dot here, and then I would know that if I did it in this week and I wanted it to be bi-weekly, then I would look to do it sometime in the 3rd week. What this can tell me is when I'm starting to shift from being aware of the chores that I'm doing and writing them down to planning the next time they need to happen, I can check this out and see, oh, okay, I've got, I did it in the 1st week, so I probably want to aim to vacuum again in the 3rd week. And then here, I just have a little extra space for notes because I'm sure at some point I'm going to want to add some additional notes. So this is where I'm at for now for this chores log. And I like how simple it is. The idea is I'll do this in Q1 and then I'll revisit whether it's worth doing again for Q2. And I think the long-term goal is to eventually take stock of all the tasks that we're doing and how often they're happening, and taking this information and trying to create some type of schedule or maybe look for some efficiencies later down the road. That might be at the second half of next year, or maybe it'll even be before we start 2025. That's how the chores log is going to work, at least for now. So I'm going to do my project log on the next page. Do feel like I need a space to put all the different little one-off projects that are living in my head. I need to put them down somewhere. So I'm looking forward to starting this project log. So I'm just going to start off by putting the title. Project description, estimated effort level, date started, date completed, and notes. This will be pretty simple. I'm just going to add all of these things that have been living in my mind, and I'm not going to be too fancy because it's really just so that if I'm at home and I'm thinking, oh, I need to do X, then I can just write it in here and kind of forget about it until I have the time to actually plan out when I'm going to do it. So now that they are written down here, I feel already like I can plan these things a lot more easily. And for example, like something like living room curtains, I'm going to put that at a 3 because it's not something that I'm going to be able to do in one sitting. It's going to require me to either learn how to do it or find someone that can help me make a curtain for one of my windows. So it's a medium level, as opposed to something like painting the office. I'm going to put that at a 5 because that's going to involve like taping, cleaning, painting. I would give bathroom painting as a 5. Front stairway is probably a 5. Patio is a 5. So I've got a lot of big projects coming up, I guess. I would put gardening prep as like a 3. Bedroom closet is a 5. And declutter closet is a 3. So you can see that I've got a range of projects that I think will be like really, really quick wins versus will require much more planning. And I would say like these are just estimates based on what I think. And I would probably do some of this with Mike and say, okay, if I were to do the front stairway, what would be a good time for us to do that? And have us both know that it's probably going to put our area, like our front stairway, in disarray for a few days. And so it'll kind of mentally prepare Mike, and it'll also be a way for me to say, well, if I'm doing a project that is going to take a 5, that means I'm not really going to be able to also paint the office at the same time. So this is really meant to be like a way to prioritize projects and start to estimate like how much effort it'll take. Say I decide that I want to start the front stairway makeover, that's when I'll use these notes pages to add more detail. So I might list out all of the things that need to happen, like clean everything, prep the space, get the paint, which I already have, get the primer, and maybe like anything else that I would need to do in order to complete that project. So it's always nice for me to have like a place where I can kind of write down the steps and just think through like what's happening. And then it also gives me a space to write down unforeseen challenges or tasks that could help me for the next time I take on a project like that. And that's really all that I had for this update on the home and garden planner. I'm really excited to see how this works. So for the next few weeks, I'm going to be continuing on with writing down every task that we do related to the home. And I might even use this chores log preemptively to add things that come to mind that I haven't done yet. And it'll allow me to think through like how often we should do it. One example that comes to mind is deep cleaning the oven. So I'm actually going to put it down. So deep clean oven. This is something that I did, honestly, I can't remember the last time, but cleaning the door and lifting up the area with the stove and just really like doing a very deep clean on our stove. So that's something that I haven't done yet, but I think I'll put it in the log, and that will allow me to think through, is it recurring? Yes. What kind of effort level? I think it is like a 1, because I can do that in one day. Frequency, I'm going to have to look that up. I actually don't know how often this should be done. And so this is an opportunity for me to do some research and put in here how often. And then once I do this deep clean, I can mark it here. And if I see that it's something that I should be doing monthly, then I can just kind of count a few weeks later and add that task into in my monthly, or I can put it in this section, and then I can schedule it into my week depending on whatever I have going on that week. So if I know that it's a 1, it's not going to take that much effort, maybe I can squeeze it in on a weeknight right after I've cooked dinner. So that's basically how I'm hoping this is going to work out. I can put things either proactively or reactively after I've filled them out here. And I don't know if I'm going to track everything that I do for the entire year, but I'm definitely going to do it for Q1, because I think inevitably there are going to be very small things that I never thought to add to my big list that will come up as I'm doing this. And so I'm really excited to see how my list compares to like what I'm actually doing versus what I think I'm doing. And then come January, I can start checking off some of these larger projects that I know I want to do, but haven't really had time to proactively think about it because I haven't really had that time to think about it anyway. So that is how I foresee this working. I'm curious to see what kind of impact this is going to make. I'm tentatively thinking I might do an update at the end of Q1 so I can do a reflection and start to plan for Q2. But if I have more things to say before then, maybe I'll do an update earlier than that. If you have ever kept a book like this in terms of tracking and planning and using it to build your own home maintenance chore list, I would love to hear what that experience was like for you. Otherwise, if you're still here, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. Every time I see a comment from one of you, I love learning more about your process and what's exciting you, and I feel like I've already gotten some really great ideas. It makes me really excited to share this journey with you because, as I mentioned before, I am very much what I used to consider a lost cause when it came to being responsible and organized around our home. And I'm just so excited to chip away at this personal project and get better at it. And my hope is that the more habitual and systematic these boring tasks become for me, the more space I'm going to have in terms of energy and in my brain to focus on really fun things that inspire me and get me excited. And hopefully that will just improve my mental health overall because I won't be feeling stressed out about all the things I need to do at home, but overwhelmed at the same time because I don't know where to start. If you have any questions or advice or suggestions, please leave them down below. I would love to hear what you think and what your experience has been like in this area. I could use all the help that you are willing to give because this is definitely a very challenging area for me. So thank you for still being here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.